Coaches, elevate your career with the AFCA Career Center. Designed exclusively for active members, this platform provides powerful tools to boost your job search, professional growth, and team building. Create a personalized career profile, explore job openings at all levels, connect directly with hiring organizations, and even post open positions to find top talent for your program. Log in to your AFCA portal today and discover the opportunities waiting for you. Welcome to this week's episode of Inside the Headset presented by Coach Com. This week, we sit down with Boise State head coach Spencer Danielson. In this conversation, Coach Danielson discusses how he constantly works to add value to the program, how he climbed the ladder at Boise State, and being named as a 2024 FBS Regional Coach of the Year by the AFCA. But first, a word from Coach Com.
Deuce left, check with me. If they're in quarters match, we're going to Pittsburgh or Ohio.
They're in zero.
Let's go Hippo, Seattle, wide choice. If we call the protection right, it's 6.
When a play call is the difference between winning and losing, your headset choice could be your most important decision. When the call counts, CoachCom is the only choice for clear, dependable communication. Visit CoachCom.com for more info.
We got it, guys. Good job.
Now, let's get inside the headset with Coach Danielson.
Coach Danielson, how we doing, man?
So good, man. I appreciate you having me on, but looking forward to having an opportunity to chop it up.
Yeah, no doubt, man. It's always good to see you. I hadn't got to spend that much time with you. A lot busier these days you are, man. So appreciate you taking 30 minutes or so to spend with the AFCA and kind of pour back into the coaching profession. But before we dive into your career and kind of how you've managed it, let me ask you, when did you know you wanted to be a part of this great profession?
Yeah, so I went to Azusa Pacific, which is a small Division II school in LA. Sadly, doesn't even have a football team anymore. That's another conversation. But had a great experience there, and I played for a phenomenal head football coach in Victor Santa Cruz. He's still a big mentor to this day. Brian Wilmer was our defensive coordinator. Bo Beatty was my linebackers coach, and so I was around these great coaches at Azusa Pacific. But still going to school there. I studied business. I broke my leg, so redshirted. So I started my MBA. Okay. And I felt like, man, I want to get into business. Like, I want to make as much money as I can, and I want to do business. Like, that's just, what I thought it was. But I love the game of football. It was always something I was passionate about. And when I was at Azusa Pacific as a junior, we went up but kind of always loved the game and kind of thought about coaching. I was like, man, I think I want to do business and make money and do that. And so my junior year, I think it was, we went up to a Young Life camp, which is a Christian organization. It's called Hume Lake, and it's an area where you go where there's a bunch of high school kids with their coaches, and essentially Azusa Pacific picked about 5 to 10 football players that would come up and chaperone these high school football players and help them at this football camp. That through this football camp they would share Jesus, and my faith is a huge deal to me. I'm very open about that, and so we go up to coach this camp as a junior in college. And just being around these players, being able to coach them at this camp, seeing how they revered their high school coaches and how much their high school coaches could pull so much out of them. And that night, we sat at a bonfire, and I was with a high school team from Fresno, and hearing some of these young men's stories about how much their high school coach impacted their life. And where they come from, mom and dad are not in good situations and all this, but how they're going to be high school graduates because of the coach in their life. I mean, I was crying. I'll never forget it as long as I live. And I remember driving back down from that camp, already kind of wrestling with maybe wanting to coach, but thought I wanted to do business. I remember driving back down from that camp. I was like, man, I want to coach. And I remember I told our coaches at Azusa Pacific, I told Victor Santa Cruz, I said, Coach, when I'm done playing, I want to coach. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if you can help me find a job. If there's a job at APU. But when I got done playing in December 2012, I started coaching in January at Azusa Pacific. And small school football, you're getting a couple $100 and a Little Caesars pizza every once in a while. You're figuring it out. But I had such great support and mentors there that they helped me just get my feet wet in the profession and learn what it looks like to coach and what it looks like to have an impact.
That's awesome, man. I love the fact that you start off with wanting to be in business and you say, I want to make a lot of money. And then next thing you know, you're making $100 and a couple slices of pizza. But you obviously dove into that thing extremely fast, and the return from that camp, you go straight down to the office, you go talk to them about it. And they're able to get you on the field fast. And this is a side note, but actually, I pulled up some of your stats, and you were a baller over there, man. Like, I mean, you had some really good stats. I would assume just really respected by your teammates, but still, you were in that locker room in December, hanging out with just another one of the guys. You know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden in January, you're just wearing a different hat. How did you go about, coaching your peers? Just in all honesty, guys that you were just hanging out with last month.
Yeah, the coaches at APU were very intentional to me about that point, Mario, because you're now leaving being their peer, and I was a captain and some things, but still you're teammates with them. You're hanging out with them. You're BSing with them, right? You're now stepping out of that landscape into now you are a mentor to them, and what that looks like as a young coach, and how to do that the right way. And another thing for me is my brother was on the team. My brother was a linebacker at Azusa Pacific. He was a junior when I was a senior. So when I started coaching, my brother was a senior, because obviously, there's no one up closer to in this world than my little brother.
Right.
And so I think so much of it, and the big things that was told to me, and I talked to even our younger coaches, is don't be anybody you're not. Don't all of a sudden, now that you got a coaching hat on, doesn't mean you got to be Bill Belichick all of a sudden, right? Yeah. But there are standards with which you live your life that have to be completely ramped up, right? You're not hanging out with the players outside of the building. You're just not. Don't even put yourself in that situation. Right. Don't even put yourself in a situation to become buddy with them all of a sudden, because then the standard's going to be lost. And I think that's such a big part, is you're not losing the relationships. You love those players that you played with. They're still going to be very close with you. But I told some guys that were still playing that I'm still close with, our close friends, hey, our relationship's going to look really different this next year, just because as I'm a coach, I've got to separate myself from the players, and it's not going to be buddy. I'm now stepping into a mentor role, and I got to live my life that way.
Absolutely. Now, I remember going from player to coach myself, and I've said this on the podcast about 100 times, but I say it again. I felt like I knew everything there was to know about football, man. I knew it all. And then you step in a profession, you realize you don't know anything.
No question.
Did you kind of have that epiphany a little bit, stepping in into having your own room, the small size football, you got your own room there. Did you feel like you were swimming a little bit? And if so, what did you do to kind of sharpen your tools?
Yeah, it's 100% exactly what you said was very similar to my reaction and experience, because you think you got a really good understanding. As a defensive player, I'm not very athletic, not tall. A lot of things go against me, so I had to study the game. I had to really understand the game really well. And as a defensive player, it was defense for me. But there's so many things that you had no idea about, from everything off the practice field. That's what I think is such a big understanding for people like into the coaching. It's not the coaching the drills. Like, I had a good idea of how to coach some drills because I've been through them and had to grow in my buzzwords and how I taught, but it's how to put a meeting together, the time it takes to put a meeting together, game planning. How long does that really take as a young coach? When the players go home, we're going to be there till 11 o'clock drawing cards. Oh yeah, absolutely you are. Yep. And especially small school coaching. I had a role. I had to get the hotels ready to go. I had to make sure the buses were going to be there, right? I got to make sure, I'm helping out in operation, make sure food's there. I'm helping clean up the practice field. There's a lot of those jobs that take a lot of time that you're not ready for. Even in recruiting, it was like, oh man, I can't wait to go call kids and hustle and get kids on campus. But there's a process to recruiting that takes a lot of time. That's not just the phone call to the kids that you got to grow in to make sure that you are an elite recruiter. Yeah. And so there were so many different things, from recruiting to the operation to teaching, that I had absolutely no idea. And I thank the Lord for those coaches at APU that changed my life, that walked this path with me. I know Ben Byes, who's a mentor of mine, was the recruiting coordinator at Azusa Pacific. And man, he put up with a lot with me, because I definitely had so much to grow in, and from how I recruited and how I did the right way. So I'm thankful for Ben for eternity.
Amen. Well, I kind of want to flip the question around a little bit as far as the adaptation from going from coach to player, from going from player to coach, I guess, and having that relationship. On the flip side, you go from player to coach amongst your coaching staff, which, I kind of said this on a podcast I recorded recently, but, two of my jobs I coached under my head coaches from college. I played at two different universities, and it was always a little difficult in a meeting. Sometimes maybe disagreeing with the head ball coach because he was still coach to me. He wasn't Jim. That hired me. He was the guy I used to run for and get in trouble by and all that kind of stuff. How did you grow in that relationship, sitting in the staff meetings and having ideas and been able to speak up or maybe disagree in certain instances?
Yeah, that's a great question. And for me, to this day, Victor Santa Cruz is not Victor Santa Cruz.
Right.
It's Coach.
Amen.
Right?
Yep.
And no different than Bo Beatty, man. Ben Bies, Rudy Kerr, these are guys in my life that they're close friends of mine. They're mentors now. But there is a level of respect that will never be lost because they coached me. And so stepping into from player to coach, that reverence and respect was there. And I had it for him as a player and no different stepping into coach. And so it took, and I think that as a young coach, everyone's at a different place. Some young coaches think they got all the answers. Oh, this is what you should call on third down. This is what it is. Right. Not knowing that they got to go through. There is a chain of command, and there's a way to do something and a way to think it out to where you can present your plan. But for me, it was just taking it all in. You have your thoughts and ideas, and it was just making sure I wanted to add as much value as I could, so then my opinion would be asked. Absolutely. And I tell the young coaches that you want to gain so much value by how you work and the product you put together to where a coach would be like, hey, Spence, what do you think about this? Instead of, and yes, there are already times to interject and say, hey, I think I got a really good idea, but you got to pick your spots. You got to pick your spots to where you don't become someone that just says something and it's not thought out completely.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned hotels and transportation. Now, I had the hotel job at one of my jobs, and I'm talking about I was a football game before the football game. When everybody had their rooms and stuff, I could wipe the sweat off my head, and I felt like I accomplished something because it was such a big to do. And so when you're at those small schools, you do wear a lot of hats, and I like kind of going through this thing chronologically. But now you're sitting in this big chair right now as the head coach of the FBS program. Does it give you a unique, I guess, you just a unique perspective knowing all the different jobs that everybody in your building is doing and how important it is to the whole machine, because you used to have to do majority of it as a young coach. Just does it give you a different perspective for those and respect level for those people that are in those jobs?
Yeah, it absolutely does give me a different perspective, and absolutely agree. A respect for everybody's role matters. We talk a lot about here at Boise State. It takes a team. Yeah. Amen. And from the equipment manager to the assistant D-line coach to whoever, it takes a team to do what we do. And I'm so thankful for my time at APU and honestly just coaching small school football, because that's all I knew. It wasn't like I played at Division I football, played in the NFL, and then all of a sudden went to small school coaching, was shocked. All I knew was 12-hour bus rides to a game. I thought that's just how you got to football games.
That's right.
And for me, I had to get the rooming list ready for hotels, and exactly like you talked about, I wanted to make sure that was dialed in, and if there was a meal for our team and I was involved in it, I got to make sure that Chick-fil-A is there and it is ready, and those fries are hot. That's what I mean? I'm just going through it, and so even coming to Boise State as a graduate assistant in 2017, I'll never forget. We go to play our first game. It's a travel game. And I'm looking for my game stuff, where are my shoes, my pants? And the equipment manager looks at me oh, we pack all that stuff for you. It'll be waiting for you. And I'm like, what? So I think there's a level of gratitude that you have when you coach small school football that I would never change, because I'm thankful for that to this day.
Amen.
I'm thankful for these things that I think if I didn't see the grind that it takes to do those, you would just assume that just naturally happens. No, that's someone's job, and they're very proactive to get it done at a high level so I can do my job, and that's how we work together.
Yeah. When I had the opposite experience, I played at an FBS program, and then my first job was a Division II job, and it was very similar to your D3 experience where we hopped on a bus and we went 8 hours for a game, and I'm like, man, where's the planes at? But once again, it gave me a respect level for what goes on at that level, and I'm happy to this day that I got that experience first before I started, venturing off in the FBS level. And so, you talked about getting that job in 2017 as a defensive graduate assistant. Oftentimes, this might be somebody's first job, but you had the opportunity to go and really grind it out, wear a lot of different hats, be the linebackers coach / GA / this / that, as Pacific. So what would you say, and you know, if somebody was asking for a piece of advice on taking maybe a small time job, well, you know, what piece of advice would you give them in regards to helping them prepare in the long run for the profession?
Yeah, and I'm very open with all coaches, because the college football profession is very different than maybe a business job where you start at a certain role, and when you do a good job, you get promoted, and you can kind of see that trajectory. Everybody's path is different, and I believe God opens doors no man can shut, and everybody's path is going to look different. Mine is different than someone else's. Not one's better than the other, just different. And so for me, I coached 4 years at Azusa Pacific, and there was even some times at my time at APU where I interviewed for a job and didn't get it. And I remember just being crushed and starting to create some self-doubt. Like, man, I think I'm pretty good at my job. You know, why did I not get that job that I wanted or I interviewed for? And you're frustrated. You're asking God why. But you just keep working. Keep fine-tune your craft. Keep growing how you teach, how you recruit, how you connect. Keep finding ways to do that, because in the end, it's always, I really do believe, good things come to people that continue to put their head down and focus on growing to be the best version of themselves. So when me and my wife moved to Boise, Idaho in 2017, it was a whole new experience for us. Like we were married. My wife came out here, got a job in construction at ESI Construction just to make ends meet.
Yeah.
And we were Southern California people, moved to Boise, Idaho. I had no idea about this place, what it was. We knew there was a blue field. We knew they were really good at football. And just really felt like and I took the job wanting to grow as a coach. I just knew I wanted to know, what does it look like Division I? How can I grow? I want to stress myself. I want to continue to push myself to be the best version of me. And so when we took that job, and I talked to all coaches, we take a job, I knew that after 2 years of being a graduate assistant, my goal was to add so much value to Boise State that they would not want to see me walk out the door. Not just, all right, Spencer's done being a GA, we'll go find somebody else, because yeah, he did okay. I wanted to add so much value in coaching, recruiting, that the jobs I did were on point, that they'd be like, all right, Spence, we gotta find a way to keep him, or even if he leaves, we're gonna try to hire him back. Like, that was my heart. Yeah. And I wanted to grow myself to be an elite recruiter, coach, teacher through that time. And that was my heart. And that's my heart for all coaches, but especially as I'm talking to young coaches or guys getting the profession or taking these jobs that don't pay any money, and they're going to demand a ton from you, that wherever you go, find a way to add value in everything you do. If it's coaching special teams, add as much value as you can to when your time there as a GA or an analyst or whatever it might be is over. You're going to put that head coach in conflict, because he's going to feel like, I don't want to lose this dude because of how much value he brought to this team.
That's powerful, Coach. I appreciate you sharing that. It's going, you know, like you said, everybody is going to walk a different path. I mean, you look at the 130 some odd head FBS head coaches, all their backgrounds are super different in terms of how they got there. But I think that's a piece of advice that can work regardless of where you are and which path you're taking. Now, just real quick, talk about that transition from APU to Boise State from 2016 to 2017. Were you seeking a new opportunity? How did that go down?
Yeah, so in 2015, I came out to Boise State in the summertime and coached their team summer camp.
Okay.
And so was able to coach a bunch of high school kids alongside the Boise State football staff. So was able to create a lot of connections, was able to meet a lot of people, and just wanted to fine-tune my craft. Wanted to get out there and coach some drills and meet people. And it was a 2-day camp, and it was my first time to Boise, Idaho in my life. And then did that again in the summer of 2016. Came out again, coached the same camp, and was at Azusa Pacific, and I wanted to coach as many camps as I could, because I wanted to fine-tune my craft coaching kids, and I wanted to coach in front of other coaches so I could meet people, and I wanted them to see me doing my job. And if that turned into a job or it didn't, at least I could hang my head high knowing I tried. Yeah. And so I'd go anywhere to coach a camp. Anyone that would let me in the building, I'd go that summer to coach their camp just to fine-tune my craft. And so did that for 2 summers in Boise. And in December 2016, I met Brian Harsin, who was the head coach here at the time, at a hotel in Rancho Cucamonga. And he offered me the defensive GA position from those connections that I had. And I was able to build a really good relationship with Andy Avalos at the time, who was the defensive coordinator. And through those connections was offered the defensive GA job. And I'll never forget telling my wife, hey, babe, I got the job at Boise State. Let's pray about it. I feel like this is where God's calling us. And she started crying. and it was not happy tears. I think she was like, "Where are you taking me to?"
Yeah.
But now looking at it, like God works in mysterious ways, and it was an experience that I know God set up.
Yeah, oftentimes as we kind of go through coaches' trajectories in their past and all that kind of stuff, you see guys all over the map, and it seems pretty regular to us. But I mean, if you look at this, you had been there in California from 2009 all the way up until 2016. So this was home.
Mm-hmm.
This was home for you and your wife, and so this is kind of your first big move. Was there any angst? This is just something you don't really talk about, right? You just kind of get up and take the job.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there's definitely angst there. I know for me and some of my moves, did you feel any of that?
Oh, absolutely, I did. Like me and I'm born and raised in San Diego. My wife's born and raised from Murrieta, California, and so both Southern California people. We met at Azusa Pacific, and so leaving Southern California, we were not just leaving we were married at the time, leaving our apartment. We were leaving all our families, because all our families are in Southern California too, leaving our entire support that we know to that point, and especially taking a job that doesn't pay a lot of money. I know I'm going to be working my tail off. I got to figure out how to make ends meet. We got to get my wife Rachel a job. Like, there's a lot of unknowns.
Yeah.
So we prayed about it and really just felt called to this place. Felt like this is where God wanted us to be. And my wife was once we talked and prayed about it, she was fully invested and we loaded up a U-Haul. We brought our cat, and that's about what we had. and we hit the road, right? I think there's some tears on the drive, but we just knew that this was where God was calling us to, and whatever came from it. Like I said, I told my wife, "Hey babe, there's a reality that in 2 years I might try to fight to get my exact same job at Azusa Pacific, but
right.
At least I'm going to be. We would have been stretched as a couple. We would have grown so much together, and then me as a coach would have learned so much through these 2 years, and I'm going to add so much value." That was the goal in that staff, that it would have changed our lives. And so there was a lot of unknowns, a lot of anxiety. I'm very open about my faith. I mean, there's a lot of trust in Jesus through that process. And we took the leap of faith and came out to Boise, Idaho. And now looking back at it, I'm going into year number 9 at Boise State. So it's crazy how God works.
That's right. A long way from the U-Haul and the cat, right? over these 9 years. Now you already kind of talked about, you were a man on a mission in 2017 as a GA. You just want to come and bring extreme value, make it hard for them to say goodbye. They didn't, right? You obviously kind of, I don't want to say leverage, but you put yourself in a position for promotion. How did that go down for them to walk in there and say, "Hey, Spence, let me holler at you," and be able to kind of have a more extended role there at the program? How did that happen?
Yeah, it was very blessed. So going into 2017, I had no idea that in 2018, the NCAA was going to go from 9 full-time assistants to 10.
Oh, yeah.
So I had no idea. I just, like I said, got offered the job at Boise State, took it. And so at that point was so blessed to be able to give him the responsibility, even as a graduate assistant, to coach the stud backer, which essentially is like the rush end.
Okay.
And so even as a GA in 2017, I was essentially, an outside linebackers coach. Even though I was a GA, taking that title, so I was able to run meetings, go through it. Wasn't able to recruit off campus, but recruited a ton, tried to add as much value as I can, and really coach that position. We had a lot of success that year. It's directly correlated because to us having really good players. It's nothing I did.
Right.
But at the end of that season, I was so blessed to be able to give it. So I had a year interview for essentially the job without even knowing that interview was going on, right? Knowing that Brian Harsin, Andy Avalos were watching to see if I could be that guy for them to promote. And then I was in the Trader Joe's parking lot on January 2nd. Never forget the day when I got called and said, "Hey, we're going to promote you to a full-time coach here at Boise State." And it's a moment I never forget. It changed my life, and I'm so thankful to the coaches here. Like I said, Brian Harsin, the head coach, Andy Avalos, the defensive coordinator, and all the other coaches that believed in me to be that 10th full-time assistant, because they took a shot on me. And there's a lot of people that they could have hired, and they hired me, and I'm forever grateful to them. And I think that comes from, I didn't come, and I'm very open. Like, I think sometimes you try to make your plans where it's like, oh, if I go here, that means I can get this job. That was not my heart. My heart was to add value.
Yeah,
I want to add as much value and grow as much as I can, not having any idea what the future held. And I think that's the right mindset to be in, so you don't set yourself up for anxiety and all. I gotta do this. No, add value, grow every single day, and add value in everything you do. And maybe it doesn't work 1 year, maybe it's 2 years, maybe it's 10 years down the road that point in time got you this job you get. But I believe if you work your tail off and you treat people the right way, that good things happen to good people.
Did you know that call was coming on the second? Not necessarily that you were going to get the job, but did you know they were kind of like looking to fill it, or was that complete like, this is coach, let me answer this type deal?
It was something that I think maybe November I was informed that there's a 10th full-time assistant opening up, but had no conversation with our head coach about like, hey, we think it's going to be you, get ready. It was just kind of like, hey, this is coming. I knew that Boise State was going to hire a 10th coach.
Right. And it could have been offense, could have been special teams.
It could have been anywhere.
Anywhere, okay.
It could have been a special teams coordinator role and move guys around. Like I really did not know what it was going to be. And so it was something I was praying for, something I was believing God for.
Right.
And it happened, and I'm forever grateful.
So I got to ask the next conversation. So obviously you get this call, and that's a huge call, right? Obviously, kind of where you started, come in, do a heck of a job, and then be able to get that call so quickly, after bringing tremendous value to the program. You hang up. Is wife with you at Trader Joe's? Or
oh yeah.
Okay, so
oh yeah.
What's her reaction?
Oh, we went back in and bought some more groceries. I promise you that. You know what I mean?
That's right.
No, but she started crying. She started crying because at that moment we knew, we were just so grateful. We were so thankful to the Lord and the coaches, and it was just tears of joy because we knew at that point that changed everything. Now we're no longer living in this 2-year. We got to go find another job. At that point, a year from then, it was like, babe, this worked. And especially, and my wife's a rock star. That was a lot of years of not making a lot of money and long hours and a lot of trust. I'm like, babe, I promise you, this is what God's called us to be. I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah.
But we want to impact people in this ride. And that call, becoming a full-time coach, was very affirming to me. And I know for my wife too, as a couple, that we can do this, right? We can do this together. And it was a moment that I know I'll never forget.
That's right. Well, that's awesome, man. And I'm going to kind of lump this time frame up together here a little bit. So 2018, you get named the stud coach there at Boise State. 2019 to 2020, you're the co-DC stud coach, and then 2021 to 23, you're named the defensive coordinator. I can imagine that's a whirlwind. You're talking about 5 years. You're a GA to a defensive coordinator at one of the most recognized G5 programs for dang sure, but one of the most recognized programs in the country. What was that whirlwind like, and how did you keep that uphill trajectory and momentum during your time frame there?
Yeah, it was very similar to even when I came to Boise State. Like I want to always keep myself, and I'm not perfect by any means, but the Lord's growing me every single day. But I always want to keep my focus on growth. Like I talk a lot about with our team, process over outcome. The outcome is people want to be a defensive coordinator. The outcome is someone wants to be a head coach. But that's never going to happen if I don't focus on my daily growth every single day, which is our process. So that's always what I think about. Like even, from 2018, I'll kind of go through quickly. 2018, promoted, first time as a full-time assistant in the FBS level. Then in 2019, get promoted to co-DC, and I coach a whole nother position. Never coached D-line in my life. I was a safety and coach.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep. I got to coach and learn a whole new position. I'm calling everybody I know. I'm flying places to learn how to play D-line, how to play it the right way, how to build into our players. So did that for 2 years, which completely changed how I see the game, right? The intricacies of what it means to play up front. And then in 2020, Coach Harsin leaves for Auburn. There's a lot of influx of what's going to happen. And then Coach Avalos gets the job, and I'm promoted to defensive coordinator. And then now the things that I feel in my heart that I wanted to run and do, now it's on me.
Yeah. And
all the organization take. Very similar to being a player and wanting to be a coach. You think you kind of got everything figured out. I think as an assistant, you feel like, and I'm a DC, I'm going to do it like this. And then all of a sudden, when you step in that role, it's a lonely seat.
Yeah.
Because now you're the one calling the plays. You're the one putting the game plan together with the assistance of a lot of really good coaches, but it's on you. If you give up 50 points, they're coming for one guy, and it's you.
Yeah.
And so fine-tuning my skill set in regards to calling a game and structures and putting people in the right spot. So in every step of the way at Boise State, and God is so faithful, I was continually stretched, either coaching a new position or more responsibility. So I've never had an opportunity to take my foot off the gas, and I love that. And I never want to be a guy that ever feels like he's got it figured out. I want to be a constant learner And I think that's something that I'm always trying to focus on. And by no means am I perfect at it, but it's something I think about all the time. And my journey at Boise State was that, where I had to continue to evolve, to learn and grow. And then no different in 2023 when our head coach got let go and I become the interim head coach. Same thing, stretched to a whole new level right away. No idea. Wasn't thinking about it. Didn't think it was going to happen. Then all of a sudden, hey, for the rest of the season, you're the interim head coach, Spence. Figure it out and see ya. And it's like, boom, all of a sudden, all these things in my heart of things of how I would run a program, like things I had not really thought about. I just been thinking about how we could play good defense, came into effect. And so just continually stretched and grown throughout the years, I think is everything, because then you're ready for the opportunity when it comes. If you're more focused on the opportunity and not your growth, I don't think you're going to be ready when that opportunity comes. That's something that you never want to happen.
Absolutely. Well, you talk about preparation for when the opportunity shows up. There's no way to prepare for interim, opportunity. It's just chaos within a program, and I don't have to explain that to you for dang sure. What was kind of one of the first things that you wanted to accomplish whenever you were named that interim coach and you're in the middle of the season and things are already going? You got a game on Saturday. What did that look like for you?
Yeah, so my initial heart was obviously was shocking. I mean, and especially as a coach, your first thought is about your family, right? Because at that point, I'm on a multi-year contract. That's null and void now. Like here in a month or whatever it was, like I got to look for a job. I got to figure out where my family's moving to. But then very quickly after that, I was thinking about our players, and that was my heart and message to our team that Sunday was grown men finish what they start. And we've still got games to play, and we're going to finish this the right way, because there was a great group of seniors on our team in 2023 that have been through COVID, been through multiple head coaches, been through so much. And I did not want that season to be an asterisk. Yeah. I wanted to finish it the right way. And that team galvanized. Those players linked together, the coaches linked together, and nobody transferred. No coaches were more worried about their resume. They deserve all the credit. They did it for each other. We went to work and won the rest of our games and won a championship. And it's a testament to a group of young men that just, wanted to finish something right? Grown men finish where they start, and they did that. And that is not because of me. That's not because of some great speech I had. That's because a group of guys, when something that, went sideways and everything was in chaos, they linked together and focused on each other and not on the outside. Yeah. Didn't focus on what's best for me. They focused on what's best for the team. And that pushed us to win that championship in 23. And I think, after that game was promoted to the head coach. And I think those lessons learned for that team is a lot of what correlated to us being successful this past season.
Yeah. I'm going to start this sentence. You're going to be like, what is this dude talking about? But I was watching a basketball game last night, and they were talking about a three-point shooter, how sometimes they just want to catch the ball and shoot it. They don't want to catch it and have to sit there and think about it and fix it in their hands. All right. So odd statement, but it's almost like, if you had a whole, off season, all that kind of stuff lead up to your first time being a head coach, sometimes you could have put a lot of pressure on yourself, but it was almost like you had no choice but to just go. And I know you're not going to let me give you a lot of credit on that, but I've been on the staff where we got let go with about 4 or 5 games left. And I'll raise my hand. I was guilty. I was on Football Scoop. I was talking to my agent. It just – it's kind of a scary time. I watched the players say, "Oh, well, you guys aren't coaching me next year." So it definitely took some strong leadership for you to keep all that stuff together. And once again, I know you won't let me give you the credit for that, man, but I know how huge that is, just sitting in that seat before and sitting in that situation, and it's not fun. You get promoted from interim to the full-time head coach. What are the feelings and the emotions? Especially when you think about driving up there in that U-Haul with a cat and trying to figure out how you're going to make it up there.
I'll be honest, man, my first thought was thank you, Jesus. I mean, it's not because I'm so smart, such a good coach. Like I'm not that cool. I'm not that smart. I mean, God is good. And I like this story. We won the championship. We win the championship. At that point, once again, still the interim. We win the championship, hosting the trophy. I get on the plane. We're flying back. I mean, I'm carrying the championship trophy. The guys on the plane are bouncing around, Coach D. And I go down to sit next to our AD. My wife's next to me, and our AD is next to me. And he hits me on the leg and said, "Man, great job with this team." And that was it. And so still, we're flying back. I'm carrying the championship trophy. I have no idea what's going to happen the next day. Right. Am I going to be the head coach? Am I still fired? And I got to still find a job? But I was at peace. because I felt like I did everything in my power that God blessed with to be able to finish this strong and finish what we started. Yeah. And I was at peace. And the next day when the AD called me and said, hey, let's meet. And I went and met with him, and he shared his heart with me and share, the future of this program and this place and offered me the head coaching job. I started crying. I mean, I'm a very emotional guy, and I started crying, and it was something that that moment, you had those few moments in your life you never forget. I talked about the Trader Joe's moment when I was promoted full time. That's another one that I'll never forget. And it's a dream job for me, and I believe to whom much is given, much is required. And I think about that. I think about the lives of these kids that are now on me, and to make sure that they become better husbands and fathers. So I never forget being, that moment he offered me a job, and then leaving his office and calling my wife, because I go in being like, babe, I'll call you. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. Either start packing, getting some boxes, or we're going to be the head coach at Boise State. And calling her, I'm not going to lie to you, when I called her, I said, babe, didn't go well. She started crying. I said, I'm just kidding. I got the job. And she said, never do that to me. Never do that to me. I had to. You only got so many moments.
Oh, yeah.
And it was funny. My brother's a fireman in Boise. And, obviously I got offered the job, and I was super busy. And so he was calling me. I didn't pick up. All these people are calling me, wanting to see what happened, because they all kind of knew that Sunday morning something was going to happen either way. And he was driving by the facility, and on our jumbotron was a picture of my face, and he's like, well, I guess you got the job, so I guess we're good.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, as we kind of get ready for a close here to the podcast, I do want to take it back to 2012, actually 2013, January. There was a program the AFCA put on. I was a coach at this point in time. It was called the Future Coaches Academy. At that time, a young Mario Price met a young Spencer Danielson that just got done playing college football, that was just about to take a linebacker's job for the first time. And the convention is a special place because you go there and it's easy to be discouraged, as for a first time, kind of attendee, to look around and say, God dang, it's a lot of really good coaches walking around here. Yep. I can't say, I don't want to ask the question, did you ever picture yourself here? But, just kind of reminiscing on that time as you first stepped foot into this profession. Who would ever thought that you're a part of the college football playoffs? You got a Heisman candidate that's about as good as it gets. I mean, you're running a heck of a program. You got promoted. All these kind of crazy things that's happened in such a short period of time in the grand scheme of things. What are your thoughts on that? Just from where it started to kind of where you're at now. And I know the best is yet to come, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I remember my first AFCA convention, and the AFCA is awesome. I mean, what they put on to not only grow younger coaches or people in the profession, but in all facets. I'm listening to the AFCA podcast to try and grow and find an edge. And so, going to my first convention and going through a lot of the things they set up that I applied to be a part of was amazing. But there was also a lot of things with my first convention that was, disheartening, and I was talking with our staff about this before. We send all of our young coaches to the AFCA. I try to go every single year too, but it's, guys sometimes walk around and all they want to look at is to see what polo you're wearing. That's right? And they want to see, okay, is that a Division I polo or not? Or is that a Power 4 polo or not? And you kind of just can tell, when you meet someone, do they really, they really want to meet you, or are they just trying to meet you because of the polo you wear? And so when I was at, Azusa Pacific, a lot of times guys wouldn't want to talk to me because of maybe the polo I was wearing, or because I wasn't at a bigger school and maybe I couldn't hire them. But I met a lot of great people that didn't care. Yeah. And a lot of those guys that I met that when I was at APU, they might be at big-time programs or not, or younger coaches, they're still some of my closest friends today because I knew they didn't care. They didn't care where I coached at. They knew they want to know me. Yeah. They want to know my heart. And, a year or 3 years later, whenever it was 4 years later, when I was a GA at Boise State and I go to the convention, now I'm wearing the Bronco, a lot of people wanted to come up to me. And it was it's a really good perspective for me, and I'm open with our coaches that it's not about, you gain no value by the polo you wear. It's all about who you are and how you're growing. That's right. Because there's high school coaches right now that could coach me under the table. End of story. I know that. I've seen some of them at practice. I'm like, that dude's elite. And so it's not about what school you're at that gives you your value. It's all about how you impact people and how you're continually growing every single day. And so the convention was such an amazing moment to see some of the things that frustrated me, but also meet such amazing people that to this day are mentors or close friends in this profession. And it was an amazing experience.
Well, Coach, before I let you go here, I do want to, congratulate you. You were named, voted the Region 5 2024 AFCA Regional Coach of the Year. And this is obviously a little special. Like, obviously, you got a ton of accolades this past year, but I think this one is cool because your peers vote on it. Guys in the profession that see what you've done, respect what you've done, and felt confident enough to check the box with your name on it. How does that feel for you, that knowing that people in the profession that do what you do can recognize the job that you and your program are doing?
Yeah, Mario, so humbled for that award. I'm so grateful for it. And like always, man, thank you, Jesus. Cause I promise you, it's nothing, it's nothing I'm doing. And I don't say that to be like, that's the humble guy talking. I mean, we have such a phenomenal staff I'm around. I pick their brain more than I tell them what to do. I promise you that. Like, we have such a great group of players. And my heart as the head coach here is to serve our staff and serve our players. Like, that's where I see my job. It's not to be the smartest guy in the room. It's not to tell them what to do. It's to serve them. And how can I make this the best place for them to grow and thrive? And so, achieving an award like the AFCA award as a coach of the year it was very motivating for me that you can do this and do it the right way. You can do this and treat people the right way. You can do this, like the things that God put in my heart of. Whenever I became a head coach, I want to do it like this. It was affirming, like, you can do it like this. You can. And obviously, you always want to find ways to grow and improve, but you can do it like this. You can do it different. That's why, something, our kind of mantra at Boise State is built different. Like, you don't need to fit yourself in the mold that maybe people tell you need to be. I'm very different than other people. Doesn't mean better. By no means means perfect, but it's different. And being able to achieve that award was very fulfilling. You can do it different and still achieve an amazing things.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, we appreciate what you do, for the AFCA. And then on the flip side of it, just me personally, I appreciate, hearing the story of you coming back from that camp in college and deciding you want to move from that business major to this coaching profession so you can impact young lives. And, 15 years later, I mean, you couldn't be doing it better, man. So I'm going to continue to cheer you on and look forward to hopefully running into you here at the next convention in Charlotte, okay?
Mario, I appreciate you so much. Thanks for having me on, brother. God bless you.
All right. Have a good one, brother. Later.
CoachComm has been delivering tough headsets for tough teams for more than 31 years. It's why 97% of FBS teams and thousands of high schools across the country rely on CoachComm. Get the best for your team. Visit CoachComm.com for more info.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Inside the Headset, presented by CoachComm. If you'd like to learn more about this week's episode, head over to AFCA.com. There, you can access every episode and find corresponding show notes. Remember, you can catch every episode of Inside the Headset presented by CoachComm on wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. While you're there, we'd love for you to take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Your feedback helps us improve and grow. Keep up with the latest news by following us on social media. Connect with us at Inside the Headset, and remember to tag us when you share your favorite episodes. For more updates on all things AFCA, be sure to follow the @WeAreAFCA social media accounts. If you're not a part of the AFCA community yet, visit AFCA.com to join thousands of NFL, college, and high school coaches nationwide and across the globe. Elevate your coaching game with an AFCA membership. You'll gain exclusive access to the annual AFCA convention, magazine, digital library, and AFCA Insider email. Stay up to date with the latest stories and news on the AFCA website. More than just a convention, the AFCA offers continuous education, guidance, networking, and more. Celebrate the past and shape the future with the AFCA. It's about fostering exceptional coaches who create outstanding teams and even better individuals. Invest in your skills and make a lasting impact today by engaging with the AFCA. Your journey starts here.